with my pencil crayon.
I can draw it
On a piece of paper.
I can show it to you.
Oh, there we are. I was waiting for the little beeping thing and it just didn't make the sound it usually makes. Hi everybody, it is January 2015 and I know it's been a while since I gave you a new video, but that is not for lack of trying. I have been working really hard on how to bring you a pattern video, and that's what we're going to do today. Today I'm going to show you how to make a symmetrical quarter fold simple cloth pad pattern. And this video is not going to get into the actual sewing procedure. However, in another video I'm going to use the pattern, or one of the patterns that we make down here today, to show you how to put a pad together with it. So in this video we're going to go downstairs and I'm going to show you on my little ironing board setup. I finally figured out how to get this on the camera, so you should be able to see it really well. I'm going to show you how to make a quarter fold pattern, and the pad that you can use a quarter fold pattern for is a pad that is symmetrical both side to side and symmetrical from bottom to top. So basically if you cut it into 4 pieces, those 4 pieces are symmetrical, and hence the quarter fold. And you can do this even if you don't own any cloth pads yet, if you're just making one for the first time ever, and I'm going to start by showing you how to do that. You just take a piece of paper and a little bit of a ruler and a pen or a pencil, and so that's the first one I'll show you. And then the second one I'm going to show you is how to draw one from a pad that you already have that you like. And then I'll discuss how you could maybe even use one of your own disposables, whether they have wings or not, and how you would turn that into a pattern. So let's go downstairs and get started on that, and then I'll come back and explain a few more things. Okay, here we are. See my brand new ironing board cover. I'm so proud of it. What you're going to need for making a pattern is you're going to need some regular printer paper, a pair of scissors. You're going to need a pen. I have 2. You'll see why in a minute. This is a little sewing slide ruler, and I like to use it when I'm measuring things, but you could use something like this, which is just a quilting ruler that I have, or a regular run-of-the-mill school ruler is fine also. This is just 8.5 by 11 paper. You could use A4 or whatever size is typical for you. It's just, but you need 2 sheets of it. There's 2 sheets there laid together and then folded into quarters. You fold it in half and then fold it one more time. And you just make sure that that folded corner where the 2 folded ends meet, you want that corner to be in front of you on the bottom on your left as you start doing this. Now you're going to measure out a couple of things before you start drawing. And the first one you want to do is you want to decide how tall or how long you want the finished pad to be. So I'm going to do a 10-inch pad, which means I need 5 inches from that folded corner. So I measured up 5 inches and made a little mark. Now typical wings on pads are 6 to 6.5 inches. So we want half of that down at the bottom, at that bottom fold. So I'm marking 3 1/4, so that what we end up with is 6.5 when I unfold it for the wings. So that's how wide it'll be. And then in the middle, typical size is 2.5 inches. So that's what we're going to go with. We want a finished width of 2.5 inches. So I made 1 1/4 there. And so now you're just going to connect the lines with your pen. And this does not need to be perfect. It just needs to be the general shape you're after. And so that's all I did there. Now, you could cut this out, but we have to add a seam allowance. So I'm going to show you how I do that with my little slide ruler, and you don't need one of these. You can do it with a regular ruler. It's just easier with this tool. That's why I use the other color marker, because I tend to be one of those people, I'll forget and I'll cut on the wrong line because I'm an idiot. But if it's red, I cut on the red line. So what you do is you just go out and you make a little dashed line, 1/4 of an inch, or if you want to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, you can do that too, but I use a 1/4. And you just go around and make a 1/4 inch dashed line next to your, finished line there. So I'm just going to go down the whole shape doing this. Okay, and now it's ready to cut out. So you're going to cut along that red dotted line. And then what's going to happen, because we folded this into quarters, is it's going to be a perfectly symmetrical pad when we open it up, and you'll see here in a second. Okay, so here's our shape. And when you open it up, ta-da, you see it looks quite a bit like a menstrual pad shape, which is what we're after. Now there's a reason I had you make two, and so because you have two of them here. And so for the next step, it's just easier to cut them both at the same time. And in the next clip, I'll show you exactly why I had you do it with two of them. Okay, so you've got your two pieces here, and one of them, that first one we're going to use, is going to actually be the pattern for your topper and your backer, which is the top piece and the bottom piece, the part that you'll see on the outside of the pad. This second piece, which I want you to fold back up into quarters now, is going to be the absorbent core. That's going to be the part that is in the middle that soaks up everything, hence why everybody calls it a soaker. I just, you know how I feel about that word. So what we're going to do is we're going to employ the 1/2 inch rule. And what I mean by that is from the edge of the pattern for the inner core, you want that to be 1/2 inch shorter and thinner all the way around. So the first thing you want to do is get rid of that wing, draw a line for whatever shape or size your wing is, just draw a line so that you've basically just negated the wing from your calculations. And then you're just going to, using a ruler, go around and make a dotted line just like you did for the 1/4 inch seam allowance, only this one needs to be a 1/2 inch. Because what that's just going to do is make it easier to sew. And you'll find that even though it looks like it's going to be too narrow when you're actually doing this, for several times I was like, this can't be right. But when you use the 1/2 inch rule, the core that you make ends up being the perfect size to go almost all the way out to the edges, but it leaves you enough room to comfortably sew everything together. So then, like we did before, you're going to take your little red dotted line and you're going to cut on your red dotted line. And here you get to watch the fascinating Mrs. Nix cut a little tiny piece of paper. Do-do-do, do-do-do. And then at the end, I will line them up for you and show you, and you'll see that it looks like it's the right size. And it usually works out perfectly the first time if you just use the 1/2 inch rule. Doesn't matter what shape pad you've made for yourself. If you follow that external line, whether you've got a pad with flares on the edge or straight like the one that I've drawn for you here, that ends up being the perfect size for the absorbent core. All right, now with this one, we're going to go straight into how I make a pattern from a pad and the way I like to make mine. But first I wanted to show you these alternate shapes because I just drew one shape. You can draw any shape you like and see how you've got some flare. You don't have to have the straight triangle wings. You can have tab wings like this one here. These are just different ones that I drew up to show you that you're not beholden to any particular shape. Now let's say you have a pad you really like, and you'll need an iron for this step, which is what I'm trying to tell you there, and postal paper. This is a roll of postal paper, and it's almost gone because I used it all up wrapping presents for Christmas with it. Anyway, this pad down here is one of my favorite longer pads, and I only have a couple of pads in this length, so I wanted to make a copy, and I'm going to show you how I do that. You can, I was just telling you, you can do it with any size, any shape pad. You can use this postal paper, and postal paper is my preferred method of making patterns. My own personal patterns are all made from postal paper. I just find it easier to trace around on the fabric. So what you do is you put the pad you're going to do up on your roll and mark a line so that you know how long to cut your piece. Now I'm just going to cut the whole roll here. Obviously when you have more postal paper, you don't do that. You just cut out what you need. And this is where the iron comes in. Because you see it rolls up on you. It's utterly useless if you don't get it flat. So don't be afraid. Put it on the high cotton linen setting. And don't be afraid. It's not going to hurt your paper. It's not going to hurt your iron. It's not going to hurt your ironing board. Go ahead, just go nuts. And don't be afraid to use steam either. You know, steam that sucker down. You need to get this piece of paper flat. Now, because I'm almost out of postal paper, I'm only showing you with one piece. However, you're going to do this the same way you would do it with the printer paper. You want two pieces of it, and you want them to be folded on the same lines. You want the folds to be lined up together. Obviously, you don't need to have them perfectly the same shape all around, but the two folds do need to line up. So you would stack two pieces like this, and you would do exactly the same thing that I did before. Once you got it flat and it's not trying to curl up on you anymore, go ahead and fold it. I'm just demonstrating here. This is a voiceover, by the way, in case you hadn't figured that out. I can't use my audio on my phone for some reason. You just make sure that it's plenty of room there to make sure that the whole pad will fit on the piece of paper that you've cut. Anyway, so you fold it in 4. Pretend I've stacked up 2 pieces and done this. And then again, you take that corner and make sure that that corner where the 2 folded ends meet ends up in front of you on the bottom on your left as you're doing this. And now with this, instead of drawing your own shape or measuring anything, this is much easier. You just line up the center of the wing with the top of the pad. Now, remember, this quarter fold only works if you're using a pad that is symmetrical both lengthways and widthways. You need, it would only work with one that's symmetrical. If you don't have one that's symmetrical both in length and width, in other words, if you have asymmetrical wings, or if you have wings that are off center, or if you have more flare in the back or longer in the front, that's a different kind of way to do it. That's a half fold pattern, and we'll do one of those in another video. But this is what you get, and then again, you're just going to take your little ruler and you're going to take your red marker, make a red dotted line, and cut that out. And then for the absorbent core, you're going to take that second one that you would have cut out with this, and then you're going to use the 1/2 rule, just like I did on the other pad, to cut out your absorbent core. Okay, so I hope that that was helpful. I hope that that gives you the basic idea and that you kind of understand that the process that I go through when I'm making a pattern from scratch like that. I highly recommend the postal paper. If you make your pattern on printer paper, it will work. But you realize that when you make this pattern, you're going to be tracing around it over the fabric. And if you make it out of something as flimsy as printer paper, that pattern's not going to last you very long, and you're going to end up having to copy it and make another one. So I highly recommend the postal paper, because I've made probably 50 pads on one of my first patterns that I made from postal paper, and it still holds up to being traced around with a marker and being handled and whatnot. A recommendation that I heard from the Precious Stars channel for making patterns was that you take your printer paper pattern and then you trace around that on a cereal box, which I thought was brilliant. You could do that on poster board or any kind of cardstock. You could use a full-on corrugated cardboard box if you wanted to, and an X-Acto knife. However you want to get it done. You can really use any kind of medium once you've got your shape. And I think that printer paper or notebook paper is something that most people have in their homes already, so you don't have to buy anything. But if you keep postal paper around, as I do, I use it for all kinds of things. It just seemed like the natural one, and it's been very useful. I use it for all my patterns, and it works really well. Let's see. What else do I need to tell you about quarter fold patterns? I think that about covers it. If you have any questions, or if there were any glaring things that I didn't talk about, or you go to make one of these and I left something major out, please leave questions below, and I will be happy to answer them, or maybe make another video to clarify those things. But this is the first of probably several pattern videos that I'm going to do. One thing that's really important to remember, and this was brought up on one of my Facebook groups, if you intend to sell your pads, then the pattern really needs to be yours. I showed you how to copy one of your favorite cloth pads, just because if you have one and you really like it and you want to sew your own, there's nothing wrong with doing that from an existing pad that you have, as long as it's for your personal use. But you can't sell pads that are copied from a pattern that has been copyrighted by someone else. So that's important to keep in mind. If you intend to sell your pads, then I recommend that you come up with a shape, come up with a pattern on your own. Now, obviously, there are only so many different shapes and ways that you can make a cloth menstrual pad. There are quite a few out there. There's quite a lot of original stuff out there. But the same basic shape applies. You've got something that's going to fit in the underwear with wings on it that snaps around the gusset, or that somehow attaches to the underwear. So that's fine. But if you're going to blatantly copy someone else's, don't sell that, and especially don't try to sell the pattern. That's the important thing. I really, unfortunately, I have to include that, because I think sometimes people don't stop and think about that. But if you purchased it, it's probably something that someone created on their own, and they won't appreciate it, and they will have legal standing. So don't do that. But anyway, if you have any questions about quarter-fold patterns in particular, please leave your questions down below, and I promise I will do my very best to answer them and clarify. I think though that will get you started, and so happy sewing, and let me know what you make with it. Thanks. I will see you again soon. Bye.